In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how we generated $1.9 million in email marketing revenue for this supplement brand. I'm going to share my screen, jump into the Klaviyo account, and show you exactly how we did it. All right, so as you can see, from January 1st to June 30th of 2025, we generated this brand $1.9 million in Klaviyo revenue. That was roughly about 40% of their overall revenue. Now, one thing I want to show you here before we dive into all of the kind of nitty-gritty things, the revenue percentage from campaigns versus flows. So here we have about 54% of their revenue from campaigns and about 45% of the revenue from flows, with about 5% or about around $100,000 in text message marketing as well. So SMS marketing as well. Now we had just started SMS marketing, so it wasn't really a huge portion. It's actually grown quite a bit in the last year. We've done some other things outside of that too. Now, the reason I want to highlight the campaign to flow ratio here is because depending on where you're at with e-commerce and email marketing in general, this is going to vary dramatically, right? So if you're really early on, most of your revenue is going to come from flows because the moment you turn on flows, you start generating revenue. However, campaigns are going to take a lot longer because you need to build your list, you need to build engagement. If you have a really unengaged list, that's going to take a lot of time to, well, one, clean it up, but two, build and rebuild that engagement. So depending on where you're at, this might be skewed one way or another. And also depending on what you're selling too. Like if you're selling something that can be purchased multiple times, you're probably going to be a little bit more skewed onto campaigns versus flows. Whereas if you're selling like a low AOV item and that item is not purchased multiple times, then you're probably going to be more skewed into flows versus campaigns. This is why like product variation and adding new products on board is really, really important. So let's dive in here. Okay, so these two flows, the welcome flow and the abandoned checkout, are usually going to account for most of the flow revenue, or at least a large percentage of the flow revenue. 9 times out of 10, these two flows are going to be your top 2 producing flows as well. Now there's a couple others here that I want to highlight as well. That's the SMS welcome flow, which ties into the welcome flow, obviously. And then the browse abandonment flow and our replenishment flow. Those are the only ones I'm really going to talk about today because these are the top 5 in this account. So let's dive in and take a look at the welcome flow. Now, just before we do that, actually, what I want to look at is the forms, because the forms feed directly into the welcome flow. Now, with forms, you're going to basically have a couple of different types of pop-up forms that you can have, but the main thing that you should be shooting for is at least a 5% submit rate, right? Right now, we actually, like we're looking at this live right now, it's a little bit lower than what it usually is, and that's largely just because they've had some website issues and some traffic issues. So the submit rate is going to be naturally lower, but you should be shooting for anywhere from like 5 to 12%. Typically, these guys sit at around 7 or 8. And then when we have a sale or when we have Black Friday or something like that, then usually that's going to go up. And oftentimes it's going to be in the 10, 12, 15, sometimes even higher than that percentage of submit rate. So that's the first thing, because that is going to feed directly into the welcome flow. The more people we get submitting and the more people we get joining the list, the more people we're going to get into the welcome flow. Now, the welcome flow for us is really important, and we usually build this out, and usually it's going to be anywhere from like 5 to sometimes 8 emails. For these guys, you can see it goes on for 7 emails. Some of these you'll also notice are in draft right now, and that's also because of some product issues as well. However, what we're going to look at here is kind of the structure that we use for all of our welcome series flows. The first thing is the number 1 email. This entire flow, this is going to be your number 1 revenue producing email. And you can see here for us, we're sitting at about a 50% open rate, a click rate of about 11%, and a place order rate at around 8%. This is going to vary quite a bit depending on your AOV and whatnot, but this is going to be your highest revenue producing email in this flow. Usually what this email is going to consist of is literally just a, hey, welcome, and then offer delivery based off of what we had in this pop-up. For example, like if we had a 10% off, it's going to be a welcome, like here's your 10% off. Obviously phrased a little better than that. So that would be the first email. The second email is kind of building upon that. However, usually what we're going to do is we're going to say, hey, let's build on the brand story a little bit more if there is one. And 2, let's just remind people about the offer that they have. Oftentimes here, we're just going to share a little bit more about the why behind the brand, share a little bit more about why people might care. And the big thing that's important here is like, no one really cares about your brand. What people care about is why it actually is relevant for them. So what we really want to do here is make sure we're sharing and talking about the brand and why it's important through the lens of the consumer, not just like, hey, here's why we're awesome. So that's going to be email 2. Email 3 is basically going to be trying to build some social proof, maybe handle some objections. Depending on what product you're selling, this is going to vary a lot. For this, it's a product that we want to make sure that we're like sharing case studies and sharing testimonials. It's a supplement, right? So we want to show other people like, hey, here's what it's like on the other side, essentially, and talk about, hey, here's some other people who are experiencing and who were experiencing the same issues that you're experiencing, but they tried our product and here's the benefit and here's the outcome that they're experiencing. The 4th email is going to be kind of dependent on the brand, but either a message from the founder. Sometimes that works really, really well, especially if there's a kind of like, if it's a founder-led brand and if there's a tie to the founder or a tie to the founder story. The other options here are going to be like social proof, top sellers, highlighting some top sellers if you got multiple different products, and also just handling different objections here. Now, the 5th email in their welcome series is actually a last chance offer. So what we do is we make sure that the discount code expires after a certain period of time. So this is creating that urgency and saying like, hey, this is your last chance to get your offer. Do it now, essentially. Now, our rule of thumb for like how long we want this to be is if we're getting a 1% conversion rate on email 6 or email 5, usually we're going to continue. Some of these emails, like the message from the founder, not really an email that we intend to generate a lot of revenue or a lot of sales. So if we're getting lower than a 1% conversion rate here, that's normal. And that's kind of the lens you need to look at this through as well. With welcome 5, so that reminder, we're at a 0.7%, which is not bad. It's like relatively close. Number 6, not all that great. 0.3%, but also this is a quiz, right? So it's, again, it's not like pushing anything super heavily. And then we get to welcome 7, etc., etc. Now, the next flow I want to run through with you is the abandoned checkout. Abandoned checkout, like I said, is going to be your number 1 or number 2 revenue producing flow. Usually what we'll do here is we'll have a split test initially, and we did this with them. We'll split test like a 30-minute delay, a 1-hour delay, a 2-hour delay, maybe a 4-hour delay if it's like a very high value product. And then what we want to do is just have a simple reminder, right? The simple reminder is just like, hey, like you forgot something type of thing, right? Let's try to use a little bit better copy there, but that's the first piece. It's just like a simple reminder, because sometimes people have ADD and they just literally forget about the product, or they click something and they're like, yes, I'm into it. They hit the checkout and then they're like, oh shit, like my dog or my kid or my cat or my wife or whatever it is. So that's the first email. It's just a simple reminder. The next emails, and how I would encourage you to think about this, is based off of where people are at in their customer journey and based off of what objections they might have. So when people have already committed and when they've added something to their cart, they've initiated their checkout, so they've started their checkout, they've maybe even added their credit card information in, but they just didn't hit that final button, that's indicating that they have a very high level of intent. And because of that, we want to deal with the objections that people have based off of that. Wanting the product, irrelevant at that point. We know they want the product, right? So what we want to deal with is one of the objections that people might have. Oftentimes, when it comes to the checkout page, that's going to be something like they forgot. That's the number 1 that we will address. 2 is going to be trust. I don't trust you. I don't know you. 3 is going to be price. Maybe it's shipping time. Maybe it's shipping cost. Maybe it's, I don't think this is going to work for me. So what we want to do, and again, it's going to vary depending on your brand, depending on the objections that people typically have. You'll know this better than I will right now, right? For example, if you sell luxury jewelry, a big one, if you're not a very well-known brand, is like, can I trust you? I'm going to wire you, or I'm going to make a payment of $5,000 or $10,000. Are you going to just run away with my money? Knowing your brand, look at it through that lens and think about what are consumers thinking about at this stage. And sometimes it might just be like trust, or it might be timing, or it might be shipping costs, or whatever it might be. So we want to handle those objections. Now, what we did with these guys is after that initial reminder, we have a conditional split. And basically what we want to do is just filter out people who have engaged with the first email. So the second email for them is like value statements and looking at social proof and reassurance. Because it's a supplement, one of the big objections people are going to have is like, does this work for me? Is this actually going to work, or is this a sham? Email 3 is going to be handling other objections that people have. In this case, we ended up highlighting additional social proof and some PR for them. Email 4, this is where we're going to have another conditional split, and we're going to say someone has not placed an order. If someone has not placed an order yet, we want to send them an incentive. If they have placed an order, we do not want to send them an incentive, and we just want them to get out of the flow, which is this like end series here. However, if someone has not placed an order, that's where it's like, hey, you know what? Let's handle the pricing objection. So that's the objection that we're handling here. And notice that we're not doing that in email 1. A lot of brands give away margin right away by giving an incentive or giving an offer right away. when even just sending a simple reminder, as you can see, like if you go back up to here, you can see that like 5.6% of people placed an order based off of this email, which is zero incentive, right? So think about that as you're building this out too. Like we also don't want to just give away free margin. Now, email 5 is going to usually be like a last chance, this discount's expiring, that type of thing. Again, like just take a look at our placed order rate. Like we're at a 2.6 on the 4th email in the abandoned checkout. It's one of the biggest mistakes I see brands make is just having like 1 or 2 emails in their abandoned checkout series, and they're all like, and like maybe those 2 emails are like literally the exact same. If you build this out sequentially, and if you build this out in a way that is really trying to address people's objections and meeting people where they're at in their customer journey, this is going to be, you can really like take this as long as you want, to be honest. So email 5, like I said, is going to be a last chance, and we're at a 1.5% placed order rate here. And then email 6 is like kind of basically it's like a customer service check-in. And again, we're still at a 1.1. We continue this for them for 9 emails. And basically at this point, it's more so like, how can we lower the barrier even more so that you'll buy some, like you'll try it, essentially. They have free products and free trials and stuff like that. So oftentimes that's what we'll do. And with supplements, that works really, really well. It's just like the idea here though is to keep going, and each different level, each different tier, or each different email, we're going one level deeper. We don't want to go from like as an example, we don't want to go from like 10% off as an incentive to 50% off and then go back to 25% off. That makes zero sense. And I've actually seen brands do that. I'm like, this literally makes no sense. So you want to like slowly continue to deepen that discount if that's the path you decide to take. Think about like the path of least resistance there. So that's really the kind of strategy we use here. Now, browse abandonment is relatively similar. What we do here is, again, we do the conditional split. So we're split testing time delays here. And then what we want to do is basically, again, just remind people. So again, we're going to have a simple reminder here, and then we will continue to build on that. Usually we'll have another kind of like reminder / product benefits or highlighting pain points or something like that. It really depends on the brand. If you've got a lot of different products, then what we'll do is often highlight some best sellers or similar products in the category, because at this point in their customer journey, they may or may not want this product. So they might be looking, you know, if you sell a bunch of different apparel and they're looking at one thing, maybe they're not actually super interested in that thing, but maybe by showing them some of the best sellers, they're like, ooh, shit, like that's really nice. I want to buy that, right? So think about where people are at and then logically present something that is relevant to them. In the browse abandonment 3 and email 4, it's the same type of thing. We want to split these out based off of if someone is purchased or if someone is not purchased yet. And then based off of that, we're offering them an incentive here as well. Now, the 4th email flow I want to show you is the replenishment flow. And this is particularly relevant for supplement brands, skincare brands, etc. This is a flow that honestly absolutely pumps, right? And if you do it right, it will generate a ton of revenue for you. Basically, what we want to do is after someone's order has been fulfilled, we want to think about, okay, when is the approximate time that people are going to have received that order and tried the product and started using it, and when are they going to run out of that product? You're going to know this better than, like, again, it's going to depend on how much they purchase and all of that type of thing. But what we want there is then to time that based off of when we think they're going to be done with their initial order, and then hit them up with a, hey, are you like ready for round 2? Or, hey, you're probably running low, and that type of thing. And then we want to delay it another 7 days and send another email, which is more digging into like pain point agitation, and then potentially giving them an offer here if they still haven't purchased after this time. Okay, so that's the flows side of things. Now, like I said, flows were about 45% of their revenue. Campaigns were about 55% of their revenue. Now, what I want to run through with campaigns is not running through every single different campaign, because as you can see, like there's a lot of variance here. And sometimes a product spotlight will absolutely pump. Sometimes a value-based email will absolutely pump. Sometimes a sale-based email will absolutely pump. Oftentimes the sales will. But so what we want to do is create variance here, because if someone receives the same email 20 times in a month, they're going to get super bored. They're going to unsubscribe. They're not like, it's going to be irrelevant for them. It's the same thing as like sometimes resends are beneficial, but if you're just constantly resending an email, it's not beneficial. Right? You want to make sure you're changing things up based off of the season, based off of the month, based off of the interactions and behaviors that people have had, based off of like certain sales that you're having, based off of all of that. You want to change things up and make sure that things stay fresh. So they actually started with 0 when we started with them, which was about 6 months prior to this time period. So we started with them in, I think it was around June of 2024. We slowly built up their list, right? And it is a slow progress. They ended up scaling quite hard with traffic, which then leads to more people submitting into the pop-up, and then more people getting into flows, and then more people getting into campaigns. So this piece is going to be very contingent on how quickly you're scaling. And we've seen brands do the exact opposite too, right? If they scale up really quick and then their traffic, we had this happen with a brand last month actually, where their traffic dropped by like 85%. And because of that, now their engaged segment is slowly, it's not growing as fast, and it's actually getting smaller because of how few people they added into their list. So it's something to consider there. But again, they started with 0. They were literally generating, and our first couple of campaign sends, it was like maybe $100, maybe $200. So nothing. And now we're generating 28,000, 25,000, like very consistently. And some of our bigger sends are generating 50,000 plus. So I'm going to categorize this into 3 things. The first is when we're sending. This is one of the first things we test out, is both what time of day we're sending and what day we're sending as well. So we're testing that out initially, but the bigger pieces are, one, what are we sending? And you'll see here, there's a lot of different, based off of the campaign titles, you'll see a lot of different titles here. So like product spotlight, collection spotlight, review spotlight, sale, problem-based solution, value-based. There's a whole ton of different types of campaigns we can send here. The core thing is we want to have variance. We don't want to just send the same thing every single time. And we also, which is number 3, want to consider who we're sending to. This is really important, and this is what we call segmentation. With segmentation, what we want to look at is, an easy way to frame it is using a framework called RFV, so recency, frequency, and monetary value. So what that means is like, how recently has someone done something, how frequently have they done that thing, and how much have they spent. So an example here would be like someone who opened an email or someone who clicked an email in the last 30 days and who hasn't purchased, and who has purchased. Right? There's a ton of different segments that you can create. You can honestly go like create segments till the cows come home. What we really look at, and what I would encourage you to do, is keep it simple. You don't need to go super ham and send to like 4 people, because that's not going to be worth your time, your money, and the energy. What we really want to look at is like, what are the broader categories, and what is relevant for people? What are we sending to people, and what's actually relevant for people, again, based off of where they're at in their customer journey. So how we look at that. And 3, this isn't the extent to which we segment for these guys, by the way, but this is the higher level approach that we take. We look at people who are non-purchasers, i.e. people who have never purchased, people who have purchased once, twice, 5 times. We look at subscribers, meaning people who have actually subscribed to receive the product on a monthly basis. And then we further categorize those, and like purchasers is a big one, where we'll look at people who have purchased once, people who have purchased twice, 3 times, 5 times. So we're looking at VIPs, brand enthusiasts, and then just like repeat purchasers or single time purchasers. And the reason that's really relevant is because if, for example, we're doing a product spotlight, and if that product spotlight is on their number 1 product, if someone's already purchased that product, it's pretty irrelevant for people to receive that email, right? Because one of 3 things is true. Either they've received the product and they love it, which means we should be sending them a different email down the line, like a replenishment email. Number 2 is they've purchased the product and they hate it, in which case sending them that email, they're gonna be like, screw you guys. And number 3 is they purchased the product and they have not received it yet. So in any one of those situations, we shouldn't be sending to those people. We should be considering like, hey, what is most relevant for these people, and who should we be sending this content to, right? So like I said, we break it down based off of when we're sending, who we're sending to, and what we're sending to those people. If you nail those 3 things, you're gonna have a much more engaged list, and you'll start generating revenue like this. You'll start generating, this will take time. This took them a year to do, but you'll start generating emails that are producing $28, $25, $30, $50, $100,000 in revenue, just because you're being more intentional about who you're sending to, what you're sending to those people, and when you're sending it to them. So that is, if I can leave you with anything with campaigns, that is the biggest thing. Now, hopefully you found this video valuable. If you do have a D2C brand and you're doing over $100,000 a month in revenue, I'd invite you to apply below. We only work with about 4 new brands per month, but there should be an application link. We can help you do all of this for you, and you won't have to deal with email anymore. So if you are interested, go ahead, apply below, and I hope to chat with you soon. Thanks so much.